North Korea. Haeju GDP growth scenario. 51. A central bridge for the inter-Korean economic zone in the West Sea region, creating the miracle on the Taedong River. North Korean Workers' Party can do a market economy. After denuclearization, Haeju will enter a market economy and usher in an era of $20,000 per capita GDP enjoyed by a population of 650,000 within 18 years. Haeju's GDP is projected to reach $1.1 billion in 2027, the benchmark year for transitioning to a market economy immediately following denuclearization. While this figure is incomparably lower than Pyongyang's $11.7 billion, which stands in stark contrast, it is about average among provincial cities excluding Pyongyang. In 2027, Haeju's GDP per capita starts at $3,700. This is slightly higher than the national average of $1,300 in North Korea and places it in the middle range among the country's 16 major cities. Haeju is the location of the South Hwanghae Provincial Office in the central and southern part of North Korea. It was the Seohae Provincial Governor's Office during the Goryeo Dynasty, and served as the central hub as the location of the Hwanghae Provincial Government Office during the Joseon Dynasty. As the only city in South Hwanghae Province, it is the center of industry, culture, and transportation in South Hwanghae Province. The area is 207 square kilometers, located in the central southern part of the province with Mount Suyang 946 meters to the north and Mount Nam to the south, and Gwangseok stream flows from north to south through the city. The population is approximately 300,000 as of 2026. Haeju's most decisive geographical strength is its location. The 38 north latitude line passes close to the south, and it is practically only about 100 kilometers in a straight line from Seoul and 157 kilometers, 85 nautical miles from Incheon Port. The distance from Gyeodong Island to the coast of Yeonbaek in South Hwanghae Province is only 10 to 15 kilometers, so it will become the northern base of the West Sea Economic Corridor connecting Gyeodong Island, Yeonbaek, and Haeju after denuclearization. Haeju City's economic contribution is about $300 million, and its GDP per capita is about $960, which is lower than the national average of North Korea. In 1973, as Haeju Port was expanded from an existing military port into an international trade port, it became one of North Korea's 9 major industrial zones. Major industries include construction materials, chemicals, machinery, metals, shipbuilding, daily necessities, clothing, glass, and ceramics, and the cement industry, which uses abundant, high-quality limestone as a raw material, is particularly representative. Chemical industries such as phosphate fertilizers, paints, dyes, lactic acid, and caustic soda, as well as mechanical industries such as agricultural machinery, combines, and tractors, are also known. This industrial base is the foundation for reconstruction after denuclearization. In particular, the machinery industry accounts for the largest share of the industry, producing various machinery products including agricultural machinery, electrical machinery, communication machinery, and construction machinery, which not only meet the demand of South Hwanghae Province but also supply them to various parts of the country. The metal industry is also newly established, producing steel, round steel, and rolled materials. The Haeju smelter is founded based on the gold mine in Ongjin, and gold production takes place. The building materials industry also plays an important role, and the Haeju Cement Factory produces high-quality cement. Yeonpyeongdo, a major fishing ground, is located in front of Haeju Bay, where yellow croaker fishing is thriving, and there are also large catches of mullet, gizzard shad, croaker, shrimp, and oysters. Haeju pears have long been widely known as a local specialty of this region for their sour taste, and The green radishes of Jakcheon-ri and water parsley of Seokcheon-ri are also widely known for their high quality. South Hwanghae Province as a whole is North Korea's largest granary, with 41.4% of the total area being agricultural land. And Haeju is already serving as a distribution and processing center for agricultural resources. South Hwanghae Province has universities such as Kim Jong-tae University, Haeju Second Teachers College, Kim Jae-won University, Haeju Medical College, Jo Ok-hee Haeju Teachers College, and Hwangnam Industrial College, as well as about 20 vocational schools, about 500 middle schools, and about 490 elementary schools. This educational infrastructure serves as an immediate foundation for training technical personnel after denuclearization. The West Sea Special Zone for Peace and Cooperation, agreed upon at the 2007 Inter-Korean Summit, was designed with Haeju at its center. The Joint Fishing Zone, the Haeju Special Economic Zone, the utilization of Haeju Port, and the joint use of the Han River estuary were all agreed upon with Haeju as the center, but they were suspended in 2008. Reactivating this blueprint after denuclearization is the fastest path to development. This is the current status and master plan for Haeju City and its zones. The 207 square kilometers of Haeju City is designed by dividing it into 7 development zones based on geographical and functional characteristics. Zone 1 is an area of approximately 25 square kilometers around Haeju Port and the Yeongdang Peninsula of the Export Processing International Economic Special Zone. Haeju Port is located on the Yeongdang Peninsula. This area is a key hub capable of generating the fastest foreign currency revenue after denuclearization. Although Haeju Port was expanded into an international trade port in 1973, its actual handling capacity is significantly limited due to water depth constraints and the aging of its facilities. The most serious issue is the necessity of dredging. According to an analysis by the Incheon Port Authority, navigation in the Haeju Port Channel is impossible without dredging, making it the most urgent priority. The master plan divides the Yeongdang Peninsula into 3 functional zones. In the Northern Port Functional Zone, the dredging of the Haeju Port Channel to secure a water depth of 8 to 12 meters will be prioritized. A new pier capable of accommodating 2 to 3 bulk carriers of 50,000 tons simultaneously will be constructed, and a dedicated container pier for handling vessels of 3,000 TEU or more will be installed. The project will proceed under a public-private partnership structure in which the Incheon Port Authority holds the operating rights and invests the capital. If a separate dedicated terminal for the Incheon Haeju car ferry is established, it will become an integrated hub where cargo and passengers depart from the same port. The Central Export Processing Zone attracts subcontracting production plants of Korean manufacturing companies. We will apply the Kaesong Industrial Complex model as is, but specialize the industries into electronic component assembly, automotive parts, clothing and textile OEM, and plastic products. The goal is to have 50 to 100 factories move in with a workforce of 30,000 to 50,000 employees. It starts with a simple export processing model in which a Korean company imports raw materials, processes them in Haeju, and then re-exports the finished products to Incheon Port. In the southern logistics and bonded warehouse area, frozen warehouses for fishery and agricultural products, general warehouses, and bonded areas will be installed. This area serves as an agricultural export gateway through which grains from the Yeonbaek Plain and Yunryul Plain in South Hwanghae Province are exported to Korea or third countries. The scale of investment is approximately 500 billion won for port dredging and modernization, approximately 1 trillion won for export processing complex infrastructure, and approximately 300 billion won for logistics warehouses. The total is approximately 1.8 trillion won. Funding is provided through 40% from the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund, 30% from private investment. by the Incheon Port Authority and 30% from ADB infrastructure loans. Based on the 10th year of the base scenario, the estimated GDP contribution is approximately $1.3 billion, comprising an annual production value of $1 billion from the export processing zone, $200 million from port services, and $100 million from logistics services. This zone becomes the largest contributing zone, accounting for 35–40% of Haeju's total GDP. Zone 2 is the Haeju Central Business and Commercial District, covering an area of approximately 20 square kilometers in the Jungdong area. This is the Jungdong area, currently the administrative, commercial, and cultural center of Haeju City, a district characterized by a waterfront city with Gwangseok stream running north to south. The master plan designs this area with a waterfront city concept, placing functions on both sides with Gwangseok stream as the central axis. Administrative and business functions will be located to the west of Gwangseok. The South Hwanghae Provincial Government Building will be modernized, and new business service buildings for banking, insurance, accounting, and legal services will be constructed in the surrounding area. We will strengthen Haeju's role as a gateway by establishing an office dedicated to inter-Korean economic cooperation and a support center for foreign corporate investment. Commercial, cultural, and tourism functions are located to the east of Gwangseok. We will create a traditional culture street themed around Haeju's historical heritage, such as Haeju Talnori, Haeju food culture, and Haeju pear specialty products. We will renovate the Gwangseok embankment, similar to the restoration of the Cheonggyecheon waterfront in Korea, to create a waterfront cultural belt connecting walking paths, cafes, and restaurants. Duty-free shops, such as Korea's Lotte and Shilla Duty Free, along with 2 4-star hotels, will be located in the Central Business District. The investment scale is approximately 800 billion won for the modernization of the Central Business District, and approximately 200 billion won for the development of the Gwangseok waterfront. Funding consists of 60% FDI from Korean retail and construction companies and 40% from the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The annual GDP contribution from the commercial, service, and tourism sectors is approximately $300 million. Zone 3 is the Haeju Cement and Construction Materials Industry Cluster, an area of about 30 square kilometers at the southern foot of Mount Suyang. The Haeju cement plant produces high-quality cement to meet the demand of South Hwanghae Province and also supplies it to other regions. The abundant limestone in the Suyang area serves as the raw material base for this plant. The master plan develops this area into an industrial complex specialized in the export of construction materials. We are modernizing the Haeju cement plant to an annual production capacity of 5 million tons. Switching from the current outdated wet process to the latest dry preheating and calcination process will improve energy efficiency by more than 40%. The produced cement will be prioritized for supplying the explosively increasing demand for infrastructure, housing, and special economic zone construction in North Korea following denuclearization, while any surplus will be exported to South Korea and third countries via Incheon Port. By obtaining KS standard certification through a technical joint venture with companies such as Korea's Hanil Cement, direct supply to South Korean construction demand will become possible. In addition to cement, a stone processing complex will be established to quarry Haeju's specialty granite. From the western slope of Mount Wisun, process it into high-quality stone and export it. Haeju's architectural stone, composed of granite gneiss geology, is known for its high quality and is in demand in the high-end construction markets of Korea and Japan. The investment scale is approximately 500 billion won for the modernization of cement plants and approximately 100 billion won for a stone processing complex. Funding comes from 50% joint venture FDI by Korean cement companies. and 50% inter-Korean industrial cooperation loans from the Korea Development Bank. The GDP contribution is approximately $200 million annually from cement and building materials production and exports. Zone 4 is the Haeju Agricultural and Fisheries Food Processing Cluster, covering an area of approximately 25 square kilometers around the Gwangseok and Yeongdangpo coasts. Croaker, halibut, hairtail, shrimp, and oysters are caught in Gyeonggi Bay, centered around fishing ports such as Gwangseok, Yeongdangpo, and Gyeosongpo, and Haeju is a major fisheries base in South Hwanghae Province. Since the Yeonbak Plain and the Yeonyul Plain were neighboring, there was an influx of crops, making the citizens' diet abundant. The master plan designs this area as a West Sea fisheries and agricultural product processing and export hub. In terms of fisheries processing, current fishing ports will be transformed into modern seafood processing complexes, equipped with freezing and processing facilities. For oyster farming, a specialized complex for high-end oysters for export to Korea and Japan will be established by leveraging the pristine waters of Gyeonggi Bay. Shrimp from Gyeonggi Bay have been a representative species of the West Sea of the Korean Peninsula since before the division, alongside yellow croaker from Yeonpyeong Island. We process these shrimp into frozen, dried, and salted shrimp paste to supply the traditional Korean food market. We are establishing joint processing plants with companies such as CJ Seafood and Dongwon Industries. In terms of agricultural product processing, we will install factories for instant rice, rice crackers, and rice noodles, using rice from the Yeonbak Plain as raw material, as well as processing lines for juice, jam, and dried fruit made from apples, peaches, and grapes, which are specialties of South Hwanghae Province. A kimchi processing plant using Haeju pears as raw materials will partner with South Korea's CJ Cheiljedang to create a brand for direct supply to the Korean market. If realized, this combination of North Korean raw materials and a South Korean brand will become the most tangible symbol of consumer goods resulting from inter-Korean economic cooperation. The investment scale is approximately 300 billion won for the fisheries processing complex and 200 billion won for the agricultural product processing complex. Funding consists of 60% from joint venture FDI by Korean food companies and 40% from ADB food security support. The annual contribution to GDP is approximately $250 million from the processing and export of fisheries and agricultural products. Zone 5 is the Haeju Historical, Cultural, and Eco-Tourism Zone, covering an area of approximately 40 square kilometers around Mount Suyang and Singwangsa. The Suyang-san mountain area is designated as a plant protection zone, and the Haeju Korean red pine, Haeju Chinese Polovnia, and Seodam Zelkova are designated as natural monuments of North Korea. North Korea's national treasure number 25 Darani Stone Pagoda, treasure number 21 Singwangsa 9-story pagoda, treasure number 21 Singwangsa 9-story pagoda, treasure number 22 5-story pagoda, and treasure number 23 Mujabi remain, along with Sokbingo and Beksacheongpungbi. Haeju Talnori remains as a public performance. The master plan is designed as a complex tourism zone centered on Mount Suyang-sang, combining history, nature, and ecology. We will develop 5 hiking courses for Mount Suyang-sang. Each will be specialized into a course visiting Singwangsa Temple, including a temple food experience, a course exploring the Dangun legend sites, a trekking course to the 946 Minor Summit, a mountain bike course, and a family walking course. A panoramic observatory will be installed at the summit to offer simultaneous views of the West Sea and the Yeonbak Plain. We are developing a Buddhist cultural tourism package centered around Singwangsa Temple, founded during the Goryeo Dynasty. It includes temple stays for Buddhist believers from Korea, China, and Japan, a Buddhist art exhibition, and traditional temple food experiences. Haeju Talnori is regularizing its annual performance program as it pursues inscription as a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. The scale of investment is approximately 200 billion won for the development of tourism. On Mount Suyang, and approximately 50 billion won for the restoration of Singwangsa Temple and cultural facilities. The funding comes from the Korea Tourism Organization's Inter-Korean Tourism Cooperation, Project Budget, and the UNESCO Cultural Heritage Preservation Fund. The annual GDP contribution from tourism and cultural services is approximately 100 million. Zone 6 is the Haeju Smart New City and Residential Complex, an area of approximately 35 square kilometers in the northern inland plain. A new city is needed to accommodate the population expected to flow into Haeju. After denuclearization, namely, executives and employees of investment companies, technical workers, and service industry employees, the master plan develops a smart new city capable of accommodating 200,000 people on the northern plain between Mount Suyang and Gwangseok Stream. Haeju International College will be located in the center of the new city, specializing in departments such as business administration, trade, agriculture, and food science. Hwangnam Industrial College will be modernized. A sister college relationship will be established with a Korean engineering college, and it will be developed into an engineering-specialized campus. The residential complex will feature a mixed layout of low-rise townhouses and high-rise apartments designed using the technology of Korea LH Corporation to incorporate energy efficiency, seismic design, and smart home systems from the outset. Fiber optic internet and district heating and cooling will be established as infrastructure throughout the new city. The investment scale is approximately 2 trillion won for new city infrastructure and 300 billion won for university modernization. Funding sources include development led by Korea Land and Housing Corporation LH, ADB urban development loans, and reinvestment of private sales profits. The annual GDP contribution from education, healthcare, real estate, and services is approximately $200 million. Zone 7 is the Haeju-Kaesong Connecting Transportation and Logistics Corridor, the Western Road and Railway Connection Section, and an area of about 30 square kilometers. It is an area where the Hwanghae Youth Line Railway, Sariwon Haeju, 97.7 kilometer heading west, toward Kaesong and major road networks pass, and it is the northern starting point of the logistics corridor connecting Haeju to the Kaesong Industrial Complex. The master plan prioritizes the double tracking and high speeding of the Hwanghae Youth Line, starting with the Kaesong-Haeju section, reducing the current travel time of 3 to 4 hours. From Kaesong to Haeju to 1 hour will enable the Kaesong Industrial Complex and Haeju Port to function as a single industrial logistics unit. An inland container terminal ICD will be established west of Haeju to function as a complex logistics hub that consolidates products from the Kaesong Industrial Complex and agricultural products from South Hwanghae Province at Haeju Port. The bridge connecting Gyeodong Island and Yeonbaek County will be designed as a key infrastructure for the Western logistics route. When this bridge is completed, the West Sea Economic Corridor connecting Western Incheon, Gyeodong Island, Yeonbaek, and Haeju will be completed, making Haeju the northern terminus hub of this corridor. The investment scale includes approximately 1.5 trillion won for railway double tracking and modernization, approximately 300 billion won for the installation of an ICD, and approximately 200 billion won for the bridge connecting road to Gyeodong Island. Funding consists of 60% from ADB transport infrastructure loans and 40% from the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The annual GDP contribution from logistics and transportation services is approximately $150 million. This is the GDP growth scenario for Haeju City. Haeju City's 5 major growth engines consist of port-linked export processing and manufacturing, agricultural and fishery product processing and export, building materials and cement industries, tourism and services, and logistics and transportation. We use Da Nang, Vietnam as a benchmark for comparison. Da Nang grew 14-fold over 24 years from a population of 700,000 with a GDP per capita of approximately $500 in 2000 to a population of 1.3 million with a GDP per capita of approximately $7,000 in 2024. Haeju has the decisive advantage of being located 100 kilometers from Seoul, enabling it to grow faster than Da Nang. The basic scenario is the Vietnam Da Nang model, in which opening follows denuclearization proceeds sequentially and continues without major shocks or interruptions. During the 3-year period immediately following the denuclearization agreement, dredging of Haeju Port will commence, the Incheon-Haeju car ferry service will launch, and 10 to 20 companies will move into the export processing complex in the first phase. Agricultural exports will begin, and small-scale tourism to Haeju will resume at an annual level of 50,000 visitors. During this period, the city's GDP will increase to approximately $600 million, and the population will rise to 330,000, resulting in a GDP per capita of about $800. Within the 4 to 10-year period following denuclearization, 50 companies in the export processing complex will be fully operational. The modernization of Haeju Port will be completed, cement, and construction. Material exports will begin in earnest, and the agricultural and fisheries processing complex will be finished. A logistics system linking the Kaesong Industrial Complex and Haeju Port will be operational. The city's GDP will be approximately $1.8 billion, the population 400,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $4,500. During the 11 to 20-year period following denuclearization, over 100 companies will be established. In the export processing complex, the smart new city will be completed and graduates of Haeju International University will begin contributing to local industries in earnest. The West Sea Economic Corridor will be completed with the completion of the Gyeodongdo Bridge. The city's GDP will reach approximately $5 billion, the population 550,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $9,000. A per capita GDP of $20,000 will be achieved within the 21 to 28-year period following denuclearization. At this point, the GDP will be approximately $12 billion and the population 600,000. Based on the 2027 target, denuclearization will take approximately 28 years by 2055. The optimistic scenario is one in which a large-scale support package from South Korea and the United States is immediately deployed based on the Chinese Shenzhen model, and Haeju receives concentrated national investment as a central hub of the West Sea Special Zone for Peace and Cooperation. 3 years after denuclearization, 50 companies will immediately move into the export processing complex. An integrated air and sea connection will be established between Incheon and Haeju, and construction of the Gyeodongdo Bridge will begin. The city's GDP will reach approximately $1.2 billion and its GDP per capita will be approximately $3,600. 10 years after denuclearization, 200 export processing companies, 500 million in agricultural and fisheries processing exports, and 200,000 annual tourists will be achieved. The city's GDP will be approximately $4 billion, the population 480,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $8,300. Under an optimistic scenario, a per capita GDP of $20,000 is achieved approximately 18 years after denuclearization. By 2045, the city's GDP will be approximately $13 billion, and its population will reach $650,000. The pessimistic scenario involves Myanmar's slow opening model, intermittent implementation of denuclearization, partial maintenance of international sanctions, and continued passive entry by South Korean companies. This is a scenario where, even 10 years after denuclearization, the city's GDP is only about $700 million, and its GDP per capita is about $2,000. And it takes about 45 years after denuclearization to achieve a GDP per capita of $20,000 only in 2072. This is a comprehensive estimate of GDP contribution by industry for Haeju City. It is based on the baseline scenario 20 years after denuclearization. The export processing and manufacturing sector accounts for 40% of the total GDP with an annual production value of approximately $2 billion based on 100 port-linked companies. The scale of investment, including infrastructure, is approximately 2.5 trillion won, and the funding source is a mix of Korean FDI and the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The agricultural and fisheries processing and export sector accounts for approximately $500 million annually, or 10% of GDP. The investment scale is approximately 500 billion won, and the funding source is joint venture FDI by Korean food companies. The construction materials and cement industry accounts for 6% of GDP, with an annual investment of approximately $300 million. The investment scale is approximately 600 billion won, and the funding comes from joint ventures with Korean construction material companies. The tourism, culture, and service sectors account for 10% of GDP, with an annual investment of approximately $500 million. The scale of investment is about 250 billion won, and the funding sources are the Korea Tourism Organization and private hotel FDI. The logistics and transportation services sector accounts for 10% of GDP, with an annual investment of approximately $500 million. Investment in railways, roads, and ICDs amounts to about 2 trillion won, funded by ADB loans and the Inter-Korean Cooperation Fund. The education, medical, and domestic service sectors account for 24% of GDP, with an annual investment of approximately $1.2 billion. The scale of investment in new cities, universities, and hospitals is about 2.5 trillion won, and the funding comes from public-private partnership development led by LH Corporation. When these figures are combined, 20 years after denuclearization, the GDP of Haeju City will be approximately $5 billion, the population 550,000, and the GDP per capita approximately $9,100. The total investment required is approximately 12 trillion won, which will be executed in installments over 20 years. Looking at Haeju's decisive strengths, it may actually be more advantageous than Kaesong. Although Kaesong is closer to Seoul at 70 kilometers, Haeju has a decisive advantage over Kaesong in 3 aspects. First, having an independent maritime outlet in Haeju Port enables direct export to third countries without passing through Korea or China. Second, it serves as a natural collection hub where agricultural and fishery products from the entire South Hwanghae Province converge, providing abundant supply resources from the hinterland. Third, the existing heavy industry base, including cement, chemicals, and machinery, is much more developed than in Kaesong, so there is a high potential for the advancement of the manufacturing sector. Although there are analyses suggesting that Sariwon will develop into the #1 city in Hwanghae Province once the Gyeonggi Expressway and Gyeonggi High-Speed Railway open, Haeju, as the only city in South Hwanghae Province, with a port, holds a fundamentally more advantageous position than the inland city of Sariwon in terms of an export-oriented economy. With the combination of the Rias coast of Haeju Bay, the abundant fishery resources of Gyeonggi Bay, and the natural scenery of Mount Suyang, Haeju is a key future hub of North Korea with the potential to grow beyond a simple industrial city into a complex economic city on the west coast. Next time, I will discuss the growth scenario of Kaesong City. Thank you.